And showtime. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the latest episode of the ChannelPro 5-Minute Roundup. We'll look at news, trends, and tips for the SMB channel in 5 minutes or thereabouts. My name is Rich Freeman. I am executive editor of the ChannelPro Network. I am seated side by side, again, with my co-host Eric Simpson, a business improvement and transformation consultant to MSPs and other IT providers. And Eric, just in case people aren't reading the sign behind us, let folks know where we are.
We're in Newark, New Jersey at ChannelPro's SMB Forum.
We are, in fact, backstage. This is the closest thing we have to a green room, in fact, and that's where we are recording from this week. So, yes, we are in Newark, New Jersey. This is our fourth of 4 live events this year. We will be doing 5 next year. If you want to learn more about these events, and I highly advise you to do so because we've got lots of great content for you. The place to go is events.channelpronetwork.com. You can see the whole schedule for 2020 already up there now. But let's dive into this week's top story, Eric. And my guess was when I sent it to you a little bit earlier on, you were probably thinking to yourself, why in the world are we talking about a company I've barely heard of, if I've heard of it at all, called Nerdio, and a distribution agreement or two that it signed with some other companies that I have heard of, Pax8 and D&H. And this actually goes back to something that we've spoken about in the 5-Minute Roundup before, and we've been talking about a great deal at ChannelPro lately, which is the opportunity for our readers in Azure and specifically in Windows Virtual Desktop. So Nerdio is a company, they're based in Chicago. They've been in business for a number of years now. Their original model was that they had this sort of small business server surrogate. It was like a complete SMB environment in a box. There are some other companies that have solutions like that. The thing that was different about Nerdio's solution is that they still offer it, 100% consumed over the internet. It's all streamed. And so like a number of other companies out there, they had to learn some pretty intense lessons about how to do that, how to deliver all that content, all that material over the internet efficiently and make it work. And they've been working on that, perfecting that for years. A little bit more recently, originally they hosted it only in their own data center. A little more recently, they started hosting it in Azure as well. They became quite expert in Azure infrastructures too. And so what they've been doing more recently is providing this streamlined process for setting up and managing Microsoft Azure environments for partners who are new to Azure and want to get into that and start offering it to their customers. And then very, very recently, they introduced a Windows Virtual Desktop solution. So just within the past few weeks, Microsoft went into general availability on Windows Virtual Desktop. The folks at Nerdio have actually been partnering with Microsoft behind the scenes on that for quite a long time. So they're very familiar with that Microsoft solution. And as we've been saying at ChannelPro, you know, I at least personally kind of think Windows Virtual Desktop at some point down the road is going to be like the next Office 365 to folks. So this week, we find out that Pax8 and D&H, two very familiar names from the world of distribution, have signed distribution agreements with Nerdio. And both of those agreements come a few weeks after Nerdio signed a distribution agreement with Ingram Micro. So in the span of a few weeks, this company that a lot of people still haven't heard of now has agreements in place with 3 of the bigger names in distribution right now. And it just goes straight to the point I was just making. That Azure and Windows Virtual Desktop are enormous opportunities for the channel, and the distributors understand it, and they understand that Nerdio and other companies like it, such as CloudJumper, for example, that really understand how to take advantage and get channel partners into that space are very valuable additions to the line card.
Right, and Azure being such a robust yet complex platform to manage, the ability for Nerdio to simplify that experience for MSPs and other IT support professionals, as well as integrating that single pane of glass look and feel to manage Windows Virtual Desktops, I think is a very welcome and attractive deliverable. So I can see, you know, I can understand the acceleration or the interest and urgency in, you know, distributing Nerdio's solution by, you know, these disties to their, you know, considerable partner channels. Because again, you know, Azure, it's, you know, it takes some study and some thinking and some learning and some certifying to really master that. And so for the masses out there, as we've discussed, Rich, and as you mentioned, Our belief that, the Windows Virtual Desktop will be, over time, the primary computing experience for many users, as well as, in a previous episode, I mentioned that I think that Microsoft is moving completely toward apps. So, being at the forefront and creating this kind of buzz has got to be good news for Nerdio and, the distribution agreement companies, partners that will be consuming this new solution.
Yeah, I mean, the truth of the matter is there aren't a whole lot of companies right now that a distributor can turn to get quickly into that opportunity. And and we've spoken before about CloudJumper, another company, toiling quietly behind the scenes, foreseeing the day when Windows virtual desktops of some kind would be a big deal, cloud workspaces would be a big deal. Learning all the technical ropes and getting themselves ready for this day. And the day has finally arrived. And CloudJumper and Nerdio both are really sort of capitalizing on it. So, good for them. And again, just more evidence, if any was needed, that now is really the time to be getting into Azure and taking a good close look at Windows Virtual Desktop. Now, I was very intrigued when you told me what your tip of the week was going to be. I was really looking forward to this conversation because there is some controversy about this.
Yes, I think I may have fueled some of this controversy at another ChannelPro forum. We're on a panel, and the discussion was regarding should you continue using the moniker MSP? And I think we had a lively debate, as I recall, with my colleague Carl Palatek and some other folks on the panel, back and forth on that. And so, at that point, I said, well, if you don't call yourself MSP, what do you call yourself? And the discussion revolved around, well, how do you distinguish and differentiate yourself from all the other MSPs in order to, be that go-to option for prospects when you're competing with others, when it's really difficult, when you're kind of categorized as just like everybody else. I've been doing some thinking about that, Rich. As you recall, I adamantly stood up and said, I disagree with that, because guess what? People today, business owners, are actively searching now for that search term, MSP. So there is value around utilizing that for organic search and SEO and things like that. But I've had second thoughts, Rich. I think there's something to be said for distinguishing yourself from an MSP. And I have a client today that calls themselves a managed IT department. So they'll say, you know what, there are a lot of MSPs out there and they do a great job, but we're a managed IT department. And then they begin to express the distinction and differentiation, which really it's a marketing spin, right? They're doing a lot of the same things the MSP do, but I think it's ingenious to say we're a managed IT department. I also heard, I think during today's conference, a managed business. There was another moniker that somebody used, and I can't recall exactly what that was right now, but people are starting to get away from the term MSP. And I wonder if that will hold true with MSSP and some of these other acronyms that don't really carry a true certification, if you will, so people can play with that. And I wouldn't, if you're a CISSP, that's not something that you want to not market and not utilize, because that's an industry recognized designation. But MSP, MSSP, so I wanted to have our viewers think about that, and what are you doing to distinguish yourself? If you're just like your competitor, maybe think about changing things up a bit and using that as your distinct differentiator when you say, yes, there's a lot of MSPs out there, but we are this. Now you've created your own category, which becomes its own attractant and lead magnet.
Yeah, it's a really interesting issue to me. I mean, in the not too distant past, to call yourself a managed service provider was a bad idea simply because nobody knew what a managed service provider was, and so what? But I think you're exactly right. I think that idea, the idea that there is a kind of company out there called an MSP or a managed service provider, is much more broadly known among SMBs right now, and there are people searching for MSPs. I think the argument, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the argument that was being made against labeling yourself an MSP wasn't so much that everybody is calling themselves an MSP. Well, I guess it was in a sense that, because the issue was essentially there are a lot of really bad IT providers out there
Right.
calling themselves MSPs, and so you don't want to be caught up with those folks. So stay away from that label. But yeah, I think there is a differentiation opportunity as well by adopting a different kind of label. And I will say briefly, because I have spoken to some people as well who identify themselves as a managed IT department. Some of that is marketing, but actually some of that is strategy too, which is just the idea that we do all kinds of technology. So don't think of us as the computer guys, phones, printers, whatever. If it's technology, we're the first number you should call.
It's an interesting conversation. So let us know what you think. Comment below, and we'll have an update in a follow-up segment, I'm sure.
That sounds great. Well, we have got time for just one more story this week, and regular viewers probably remember that just a little while ago, a few episodes back, we were talking about the one place you sort of least want to see the Internet of Things, which was an airplane lavatory, right? We've got another Internet of Things toilet story for you folks, in case you were hoping for another one of those. It has to do with an Indiegogo startup right now that is raising money. And essentially what it is a product that will clean your toilet for you and is internet enabled and voice controlled. So if you're the kind of person who likes to interact with your toilet but doesn't want to be in the room when it gets cleaned, there's a roughly $139 tool in your future there that might take care of that for you. And by the way, it's called Sam. So you can say, hey Sam, clean the toilet for me, and it'll just happen.
Let the games begin. I can just see the pranks now. Somebody's in the toilet and you ask Sam to go into cleaning mode.
Yes, indeed. Surprise. Meet my friend Sam. Well, that is all the time we have this week on the 5-Minute Roundup. Thank you so much for joining us. If you like the show, you'd like to be made aware of future episodes and maybe take a look at some older ones that you've missed, best thing to do is go to the ChannelPro Network channel on YouTube and subscribe to that. Make sure you click the little bell if you want to get notifications when new episodes go up. You want to read more about the distribution agreement among Pax8, D&H, and Nerdio, and get business growth strategies and all sorts of industry news, please visit channelpronetwork.com. Every day we've got great content for you going up there all the time. To learn more about Eric and the work that he does with his clients, the place to visit is ericksimpson.com. That is ERICK Simpson.com. So once again, thank you very much for joining us here on the 5-Minute Roundup. We will be back next week with another episode. Until then, please enjoy the rest of your week. Eric and I are enjoying the rest of your week already.